everybody. I am joining you today from Berlin, Germany. So it is 11 p.m. here. I come here every summer. My son lives in Germany, so I'm familiar. Japanese food and Asian food in general has exploded here. So getting ingredients is pretty easy for me. Just very briefly, my background, I started going to Japan in 1972 when I was 20 years old, and I was a college student on an exchange program. And that's what started it. Before I went, I had to study Japanese. I was at Lesley College and they didn't have a Japanese language program, so Harvard let me in to study there. And I've lived in Japan since then a total of 12 years over a period of, very hard to get this out, 53 years. Been going back and forth to Japan, living there for 1, 2, and 3 years at a time. My husband's a professor of Japanese politics and international relations at MIT, and my specialty is Japanese food and education. So for young people out there, if you have an opportunity to go on an exchange program, please do. It can change the trajectory of your life. All right, I'm going to share my screen. We are going to be using this one pan cooking, and we're going to be steaming the food. And steaming is a very healthful way of cooking. You tend not to lose as many vitamins as you would if you're boiling or if you're baking. And since the packets are sealed, all of the sort of the moisture and those vitamins and minerals tend to stay in the pan. So we'll be wrapping things in parchment paper. We also, it's sort of recently come to light that cooking in aluminum foil is not the best thing. So we can do the salmon either in the aluminum foil or the parchment paper. I've done both. So this kind of messy interior is going to end up looking like this lovely meal here. And it very closely looks like a very typical Japanese meal called Ichiju-sansai. And I'll get to that in 1 second. All right, let me just, so my program that I work for is with Table for Two. It's a 501c3, and we started in Japan. And we address food imbalance in the world in different ways. Here in the United States, we do it through education. We have a bunch of programs throughout the year that help to support our programs, Onigiri Action and Edamame Champ. But generally, we're cooking with kids in classrooms from kindergarten through college and even senior citizen centers. So we like to tell people that when you get into class in Japan, all the students rise. So if everybody can stand up and they put their hands in front of their lap, and when the teacher comes in, they say, Sensei, konnichiwa, or Ohayo gozaimasu, whatever it is. And this kind of helps us to set the tone for what we're going to be doing and showing people the difference, sort of the way Japanese would greet their teachers as opposed to American kids. So here we are, Sensei, konnichiwa. All right. One of the things that we also teach is in Japanese culture as well, and foodways. And so we talk about the things that people grow up learning in Japan. It's just by osmosis. It's just there all the time. And these are part of our classroom activities. And 1 or 2 of these are actually relevant to what we're doing today. So mottainai, don't be wasteful. Color and balanced meal and presentation is very important in Japanese food. So you'll generally see 5 colors. Meide taberu, you eat with your eyes. And that is also very important in Japanese culture and cuisine. Food has to look good. and it has to taste good. Here's the motai nai. Itadakimasu and gochiso-sama, which is what expressions of gratitude at the beginning and the end of a meal. And the two I wanted to point out for today's meal is you can see this as a balanced meal. And this is close to what we're having today without the soup if you have rice. But this is kind of ichiju sansai, which is one soup, one rice, a main dish, and two sides. And this is considered a balanced meal in Japan. And basically, that's what we're going to be putting in one pan today. And this is sort of the ideal. It's not the way everybody eats today, but it also serves the purpose of controlling portions. So you can see everything is sort of nicely positioned on its own individual plate. And then this last one here, harahachibun mei, which is you eat until you're 80% full. So the goal is not to stuff yourself. It's not manja, manja, manja. That's not that's not a concept there. But you eat until you're 80% full. And cooking this way kind of helps you to do that. So you're not overeating. All right, I'm going to stop there and we are going to get started. And let me just get out of that. So we are going to start with our salmon. We're going to put everything together. If you have two different pans, that's great, as long as they both have lids. All right. And once we finish with the salmon, we can start actually cooking that because that takes the longest. Okay. But maybe cook two things in there. All right. So I'm going to share one more time. All right, everybody. So let's start with our salmon. A quarter of a pound is usually good for one serving. I have my quarter of a pound here. I'm not going to make two tonight. I'm just going to make one. So I have my salmon already. And like a lot of things, it's really very helpful to have everything in order before you try to start cooking so you're not running around. So we have cabbage here. I'll just show you this. This is Spitzkohl, German cabbage. That's what I found today. I have some shimeji mushrooms, fresh shiitake. You can use any mushrooms that you like. I also have a half of a medium onion. We're going to cut these together. I thought it would be important for us to do that. Half a cup of corn. So what this is you'd be dividing these things in half in two packets. All right. And we're going to get started by putting some salt and a little sake on our salmon. Let me just go over the sauce ingredients. We've got 3 tablespoons of miso. My miso is, I think it's awase miso, so it's a little bit darker. Yours may be lighter, that's fine. And I have 2 tablespoons of mirin, which is the sweet rice wine. If you don't have it, don't worry about it. You don't have to use it, or for religious reasons, you don't use alcohol. We'll tell you there's not much alcohol in here, so this is that. And then we have a tablespoon of sake. Is it a tablespoon or 2 tablespoons of sake? All right, here, and a teaspoon of soy sauce. So let's get the salmon ready. And when you're doing this kind of cooking, it's important that you're adding seasonings to what it is that you're going to be cooking, because you don't have a lot of sauce to do that with. So I'm just going to add a little bit of salt and a little bit of sake to this. So let me see which one is my sake. Okay, this is my sake, and I'm just going to sprinkle on just a little bit like that. Generally, sake is used to kind of mitigate some of the odor of the fish, but it also helps to add a little flavor. And now I'm going to take some salt and put a little bit of salt on. Okay. So any seasoning we have to do, we're gonna do first. All right, here. Okay. All right, that's gonna set that aside. Let's mix the sauce that's gonna go on top of our salmon, okay? So 3 tablespoons of miso. Everybody has that together. 3 tablespoons of miso. And 2 tablespoons of mirin. In here, okay? And we put a little bit on there. Now we're gonna put the rest on here. It is, and a teaspoon of soy sauce. And 1 teaspoon of sugar. Here's my sugar, a little hard to see. So I've already measured it out. So we're mixing up the sauce, all right? And set that aside. And then we'll just mix it up, okay? So that it's all dissolved. Like that. Okay. And we'll set that aside, and now we will prepare the vegetables. And just get that nice and smooth. Okay. The important thing with the vegetables is we want to be cutting them in similar sizes because we want them to cook at the same rate, okay? So it's important. Why I didn't ask you to cut everything ahead of time, that we just cut them together so we're ready. All right, my sauce and my salmon are ready. And now we're going to move these things over. So I'm gonna take my cabbage now. And it says to cut thinly. You can either cut it in thin shreds or you can cut it in small chunks. So I'm just gonna put this a little unwieldy here. So I'm just gonna start to cut it down like that. All right. This is going to be your bed. This is what the salmon is going to go on top of. And if you don't like onion and you want to have something like that, you can use scallions, or you don't have to have onions at all. Okay, you don't have to have onions at all in this. All right, so I'm gonna put my cabbage back on the plate. All right. I don't know if anybody has already cut all of their vegetables, but when we're teaching like this, I do like to do it together because sometimes we have young people with us who are doing things for the first time, so it's always good for them to know. So here we go, I've got a half of a medium onion, and I'm also gonna slice that very thin, like this. And I may not use the whole thing. When I've made this before, sometimes the onion, the flavor's a little strong. One thing that you can do if you want to, you can saute the onions a little bit first, but it defeats the purpose of using multiple pans if we do that. So we're just gonna, the onion, I'm using half of what is in the recipe today, so I'll stop there. And then I want to separate this, okay? I want to make sure it's separated. And this will also go on the bed. Let me turn my, okay. And yeah, right, put that on my plate. And I have shiitake mushrooms that I'm going to use. I've already cleaned them, and I'm going to take off the stem. Okay. This. Everybody with me? Put this over here. And it says 6, but I'm using, as I said, half. I think it says 6. And if you don't have shiitake or you don't like shiitake, you can use regular mushrooms. And just gonna slice those nice and thin. Okay. This is the most complicated of all of the dishes, so the rest of them will go kind of quickly. This is our main. Okay. Got my shiitake done. I have shimeji mushrooms here, and really you just need to take off the end and then just pull them apart. Okay, a little bit like, cut it a little bit. And then just pull these apart like that. Mushrooms that are not too, that wouldn't take too long to cook are also very good. Like I wouldn't use a trumpet mushroom. That one is kind of very, very meaty. So, all right. I will clean up here. And get rid of that. All right, and lastly, we have some ginger. I added this to the recipe because after I made it once, I felt it needed a little bit of a zing, a little bit of flavor, and I thought ginger added a little nice aroma and a little bit of a zest to it. So I'm just going, we're not going to eat the ginger. It's mostly just for flavoring. All right, so I'm just going to, I have a 2-inch piece here that I've peeled the skin off of, like that. And now I'm just gonna slice it thinly, okay? Couple of pieces. And in order to kind of release the aroma a little bit more, I like to just smash it with the end of a knife, like that. All right, so it just breaks up the fibers. And it gives it more flavor. So we're just gonna be adding this. We're not gonna be eating this, okay, just for flavor. All right, so I've got that. So the oyster mushrooms, make sure you've got them cut nice and thin. Now, again, you can use corn if you want, or if you don't want, right? Important element here is butter, okay? So we're gonna now start to construct our packet. All right, so let me clean up my space. Put everything there. Let's get out your baking paper. This comes in sheets here, which is so convenient. In this case, you're going to use the whole sheet, okay? The other ones we're going to fold up. So if yours doesn't come in sheets like this is about a 10 by 10, okay? Something nice that's gonna hold everything, all right? And now we're gonna start building. All right, one thing that you may wanna do now is to add some water to your pan. And you may wanna just put it on a low heat, so we get ready, we can boil that, all right? So I'm just gonna add some water here. And get that go. All right, now the water is not more than 2 inches, or you may need to do it once you've added it. I will get this started. And I'm just starting it at 5 or 6, so when I'm ready, I have an electric stove. So the first thing I'm gonna put down is, let me just get down here. The cabbage, all right? And here we go. All right, now we're gonna put the cabbage on the parchment paper. like this. Right, and I'm gonna put some onions on. Like that. All right. And now we're gonna add some salt and pepper. All right. So I've got a little bit of pepper here. Now, remember, you're leaving space because you're going to have to roll this up, okay? So be mindful of how much space you have around you. Add a little bit of salt. Here, okay. Just a few more onions. All right. And now I'm going to sprinkle on some corn. And when you'll be able to add some around here, say, and some of the mushrooms. Okay. And we're going to put a little bit more salt and pepper on. Right. And the mushrooms can go around the edge as well. So now everybody, with the salmon, I meant to tell you all that we need to take off the skin. Has everybody got the skin off? I meant to tell you that in the beginning. So I wanted to wait to do it together. So you really, it's not that hard to pull up the skin. One of the reasons I also pull off the skin is because they usually leave on extra scales, and that is not something you want to be eating. And if you need to, you can just slide your knife underneath like this, and it will help to lift up the salmon and the skin. Oops. I'm making a little bit of a mess of this. All right. Better. All right. Before we put the salmon on, the other element that we talked about that was important here is the butter. And so I've already cut my butter into little pieces like that. If you haven't done that, just cut your butter into small pieces, okay? And I'm going to take a couple of pieces now and add it here and on top of the vegetables, okay? Another thing you could do if you would like to is you could add a little bit of soy sauce here. If you want, that will give it a little bit of more sauce. And let me just gonna add, this is not on the recipe, but I'm just gonna add a little bit of soy sauce. Okay. And now salmon goes on top like this. Okay. Be mindful of how you're going to fold it. All right. If you're using parchment or you're using foil, and this way, sorry. Now I'm going to take my our miso sauce, and I'm going to put it right on top. And you can add a little bit around. It's all gonna, you can see when it steams, it's all gonna steam together. And that's a kind of a good amount. That's half of what we made. All right. And now some more butter on top. We're not using oil to cook it. I know it, we're talking about healthy food, but this is also a pretty healthy meal, even though we are using butter. So here, is everybody with me? Because we're getting ready now to fold it and twist. All right, just. So what we're gonna do is we're creating a packet. So watch me first before you're doing it, unless you guys are, or have done this before. I'm gonna cut another piece. I put it back there, but I'm not seeing it right now, so I'm just gonna cut another piece. And it's kind of, it's an aromatic in this case. Okay. All right, this one here. I'm gonna bring this up. And we're going to fold it down once. And fold it down again, like that. And this is kind of the tricky part, is what you're gonna do is you're gonna take an end and you're gonna twist it. Like a candy wrapper, okay? Twist it. And twist it. Like that. Okay? Like a candy wrapper. This should take between 10 and 15 minutes to cook. So what we're doing is it's 10 minutes. And then we kind of look at it, or we open it up a little bit, and then we continue on cooking. All right, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna put this, let's see. I think we'll start cooking this now. And I'm just gonna show you over here to my spot. Okay. And then we're gonna add the other items as we go. Okay. So mine is, sorry for the odd angle. I have water in here. And I don't have my big frying pan here, but I have a pot with a lid, which is very important, all right? I've got it at 6, and I'm gonna place this in like that, all right? It's a little lower than 2 inches, that is fine. And I'll probably drive this up just to 7, so I want to be able to control that. And now I'm going to cover it. Okay? Are we ready to move on? We're going to move to the potatoes and the carrots. All right, because that's the thing that next one that will take a little bit of time to do. And I'm just going to move this to the other. Okay. All right, everybody. So make sure your surface is clean. And now we're going to, do our potatoes and carrots. The small potatoes, went to a farmer's market today here. The skin really needed to be peeled on mine, but if you have little red bliss potatoes or little Yukon Golds or something, and the skin is fine and it's clean, feel free not to peel it, okay? So I've done this a little bit earlier so that we move along here, all right? So it's, if you can go a little bit lower than 2 inches, as long as it's sitting in there nicely, okay? But about 2 inches, okay? You don't want it coming up too high. So again, we want to cut these in a similar size, and we want them to cook. So they have to be cut small. All right, let me just wipe off my knife. So if your potato is very small, mine is not very small, but if it's one of those small bliss potatoes, you can cut them in quarters, but mine is a little bit too big to do that. So just get this down here. I'm gonna cut mine a bit smaller than that. This is the size. Okay. Important that they cook through. And again, the goal of this was to do in 2 packages, so don't try and push all of this into one package, all right? if it's too much. If it looks like it'll fit, by all means. All right, well, and then the other thing you can do now is to start the water in your other pan as well, right? Mine is going to go in with the, with my salmon. Now my water is boiling and I'm gonna turn it down because I don't want that. It can simmer but not boil. And let's cut these. Okay. And moving along. Again, you want things to be cut in similar sizes. Carrots and potatoes can take a while. Here's my carrot. And I won't be using this whole thing. I'm gonna cut it in half. And then I'm gonna cut it in half again. And for any young people that are watching, it's easy to cut a carrot if you lay it flat on its side like that, all right? And we're looking to cut things in similar sizes. Soy sauce and butter is a very delicious combination. And it is very often used in Japan, steaks, with meats, all sorts of things. It's really very, very delicious. All right. Here's my carrot slice, chunk, dice. Okay. That. All right. And I think I will cut up the rest of this carrot. All right, and again, we're gonna get our parchment paper out. This one I can do in half, all right? This is probably around 8 by 10, right? And I'm gonna put this, that, or you can rip it. Save the other half for our other vegetable. Okay. And I'm gonna put carrots and potatoes in here. And maybe don't overfill it. Make another packet, all right? Don't overfill it. I wanna make sure, you wanna make sure it cooks, right? And now the next thing that we have here is again some butter. Right? And I'm just putting it in packs here. And now you're gonna add half the soy sauce there as well. Just leave it in there like this. Okay, and again, we're gonna wrap this up. So. Make a packet. And a candy wrapper. Okay, that's done. And this is gonna take a little bit more time. I'm putting it in now with the salmon. So I'm gonna move here. Because I do have space in that. Just move this over for you. You can see my salmon in here. Right? And now I'm going to put in potato. Right here. heat up a little bit. And put that to bed. Okay. And we have one more, the Japanese sweet potato and apple. We're gonna be making a kind of a dessert out of this. Okay? Hawaiian purple yam, yay, wonderful, that's great. That's great. I didn't cut and peel this first, because as soon as you take off the skin, it turns brown. I'm only gonna use half of this potato. Is a yam, is it a yam, a sweet potato? They're in the family. They are different, but they are in the family, and if you have a yam, an orange yam, by all means, use it, okay? So I've already cut my apple, that did, that put a little lemon juice on that, and I am gonna take off the skin on this. Okay. This is sweet, it's very sweet, and it has a lot less moisture than the other potatoes. But any potato will be fine, really, for this. It's just, we were doing a Japanese cooking class, and I thought it would be good to do this because we make a lot of sweets with Japanese, yams, all right? And then I am gonna peel this. I'm gonna finish peeling my potato. Before I look. I do wanna try and put this in, all right. If you haven't started peeling your potato, we can take a look at the salmon. You see how brown, see it turns brown immediately, for that, all right. Let's just go look at the salmon. Great. So I think my, has to go up a little bit higher. Heat went down a little bit. And I'm just feeling the salmon. You can kind of tell if it's firm, it's more ready. You can take a peek. Oh, it's looking good. It's definitely cooking, but it is not ready yet. All right, you can see it. It's starting to become firm, but this is going to keep it moist. Having it steam in the packet. All right. So I did this initial testing on my stove in Boston, so this one is behaving a little bit differently. I do need to turn the heat up a little bit higher, make sure everything comes. Okay, again, with the potato and the apple, we're gonna cut them small, wrap them in the parchment paper. And look at that, turns dark already. And get them going. These we're gonna want to mash with a fork. So we want to try and make these small. Maybe this is really tough. Oh, this is good. Here in Berlin, one of these Japanese sweet potatoes was it was 350 euros, so it's about $5 for one sweet potato here. But needs must, so we have it. All right. And we're gonna cut up the apple in the same way. And to this, we're going to add butter and a little honey. Okay. And small. All right. This. And we are cruising. Okay. And my apple. Same thing. Not a lot of color variation in this. But it is delicious. We're gonna make a little mash out of it. All right, here. And let's get the parchment paper. So you're going to use the other half of what we had. which I cannot find. And there's gonna be another one. Okay. So here. By the third or fourth package, people are getting very accomplished at getting this going and twisting. And keeping these together, all right, and again. In goes a little bit of the butter. That is the cinnamon if you want to. You don't have to use cinnamon if you don't want. I don't have it at hand, so I'm just gonna be using a little bit of honey. And we're gonna put a little salt on. Recently, it's come out that foil is not good for cooking anymore, that there is some chemical released from it, and so people are shying away from using foil these days. I wanted to give you the option for that, and when we teach with kids, I'm staying away from foil completely. So I don't know, something's gonna get us, we don't know what or how long it would take this chemical to do harm, but that is the latest information on foil. So you can use it, but that just have that in the back of your mind. Okay, honey, a little bit of honey here. And we get this wrapped up. And if you see it's like not wrapping or it's like too much, undo it and give yourself another packet, all right? Here we go. And I have room for this in my pan, so I'm gonna put it in now. Right. Like that. I'm having trouble regulating this heat, so it's a little bit of bubbling going on. So I cooked all of these things in one piece. So now I think that my salmon is probably ready and probably ready for me to take it out, but I'm gonna open it up and have a look. What you also want is the vegetables to be cooked on the bottom. So you may want to see. Yep, they're cooked. I can see they're cooked. We'll give it a taste. Yes, they are actually really quite delicious. And what I'm going to do now is take the salmon out. And then we'll put the remaining items. So the salmon is coming out. Right, be very careful. Whoops. Well, it's not going to fall apart on us. Very careful. Okay. This parchment paper that I found here in Germany is a little bit thinner than what I would normally have at home. But this, your salmon is now done, and you can just leave it in the paper and keep it nice and warm. My potatoes are cooking here, and these I'm gonna put in and close up and have that. Two things in here, and then the last thing I'm gonna put in is the vegetable. All right. Then back up to 5. All right. So our salmon is now done. All right, put it on the side. Some of the beauty of this using the parchment paper for one of these recipes, Japanese recipes called chan-chan-yaki. That's basically what this is. It's a Hokkaido specialty, but unwrapping it and having the foil be the plate or the parchment be the plate is also sort of part of the charm of eating it. Okay, so I'm gonna put this on the side and we'll now go to the vegetables. Back here, this is my okra. All right, and now we're gonna go to our vegetable right here. The dressing for this is called wasabi joyu or wasabi shoyu. So we're using wasabi. I'm using wasabi powder. If you have wasabi paste, that's fine. And I have some soy sauce here. Okay, that's going to be our seasoning. No butter. I've got asparagus. And I know this is a little fussy, but I think it really gives a better eating experience. So the first thing is you want to find the place where the stem is not so woody anymore. So you're gonna find where it's gonna be easy to snap, and then you're gonna snap your asparagus, okay? And see down here, it's not gonna snap, it's very woody. So I keep moving up until I find the part that's gonna snap. And snap. And snap, okay. Now, we are going to peel this part. So you're just gonna peel the stem like that. Okay. This is something that I think enhances the eating experience. So you're gonna peel there. Okay. Yes. Okay. Here in Germany, and particularly in Berlin, it's white asparagus season. So I bought white asparagus. I was going to try this with white asparagus as well. People go crazy for it. Okay. And again. Now, if you want to be multi-night, you can save your asparagus peelings. If you were going to make an asparagus soup, this is very good to give it a flavor. Okay, throw it in your garden. All right. I'm going to put this on the side. And now I'm going to cut the pieces. Let's see. I would say thirds. Okay? Thirds. This takes only 5 minutes to cook, which is why I'm doing this last. Okay? Great, my potatoes are cooking. Yes, everything's cooking in there. All right. And now let's get this sauce ready. So I have my soy sauce here. So this, I'm embarrassed, but my wasabi is a little old. So the color is really dull, but it tastes good. So I didn't realize that it was that old. But what you need to do is I like to dilute it in water first and then add it to the soy sauce. But you're gonna see a very ugly color green. So here we go. So I'm gonna just do that. Okay. And there are two ways you can do this. I experimented both ways. You can cook the asparagus with or without this sauce. If you cook it without the sauce, you put the sauce on later. If you cook it with the sauce, it's seasoned. Okay, so yeah, I'm gonna make this just a little bit thicker. So I'm just gonna add a little bit of this. I think you're gonna get something a little bit closer to what I was hoping we would, that the flavor would be here. Okay, so you can use more asparagus than this. I just prepared it. Let's get our here and a little bit of salt and pepper on this. Okay. Not too much pepper. Okay, where'd my salt go? A little bit of salt. Savory ones. Okay. In many of the recipes that I saw being done with Japanese people doing it, they were adding powders like katsuo powder and maybe hondashi and different things for it to add flavor. So I'm going to put a little bit of the sauce on here, and you can add more afterwards. Okay. All right. So this is 5 minutes. the thing about the green is that if you overcook it, it loses that bright color. It doesn't taste bad, it just loses that bright color. But when I experimented, it was 5 minutes and I got perfect texture. Okay, what I did is I put the okra in the packet. It's the same thing, same seasoning. And at the end, these are frozen, but fresh would be the same thing. After I finished, I sliced it up. You don't have to, but that's what I ended up doing with this. I'll show you afterwards. Okay, so in goes this, and then we're gonna check what we're cooking now. Oh yeah, things are cooking along. And what you wanna do is you wanna make sure things have been cooked through. You just see if I can move this a little bit closer for you so you can see. Okay. I have a sharp knife here, and you can pierce. Yep, potato and carrots are cooked. Okay, so my potatoes and carrots are done. So they are coming out, right? Okay, right? Yep. Those are done. And the greens are going in. So typically, if you're doing this, we are using basically one pan in succession. We're doing the food in succession, but you can do this in two pans. Many of the things that I read about, people were using one large pan with a lid. Let me see how the potatoes and apples are doing. They're doing, but they're not ready. Okay, so I cover those up and okay. 5 minutes. When I am preparing my potatoes, I'll just tell you, I did prepare them ahead of time. If you put them in cold water, they stay, they don't turn brown. Okay. That is not true with this Japanese potato. It turns brown on me even in water. I don't know why that is. Okay. All right. So let's just clean up the area. So we'll be able to open things up together. So as you saw in the photograph, all of the food was on individual plates. There's a lot of liquid in some of these things, so I would not really want to serve them in the same because I have so many Japanese items, I do have lots of separate plates. So I'm going to try and do that. Right? So let's look at the potatoes. Ooh. Yeah. And test them again. You should be ready. Yep, right through. Okay. Keep the sauce together. And we'll just put this on here. Like this. So we've got our potato and carrots. And you'll see how nice that soy sauce and butter tastes. Okay. And I'm gonna put the salmon in here. I'm just gonna open it up. I'm gonna leave the packet together and I'm gonna open it up like this. Okay. All right, so that's 2 items. Got my little plate here for that. So I have some extra sauces here if we want to add more flavor to it. But it should be pretty good. All right. let's see how the asparagus are, and at that point, I think the potato and the apple will be ready. Let's see how my asparagus are doing. I think my asparagus could use another minute. All right, I'm gonna put them back in for a minute. And let's see how potato and. Okay. My Japanese potato and apple are ready. And show you what we do with that. So you can just give your the apple and the potato a taste. See, yeah, it's fork tender. That's gonna mash, all right? So I am putting it in a small bowl. Now, you do not have to go to this trouble if you don't want to, but I'm just gonna show you how to make this kind of a pretty little package. It's also a really lovely thing for Thanksgiving too. There. And what we're gonna do is just mash. Oh yeah, that's ready. If it wasn't ready, it wouldn't mash. Yes, and it doesn't have to be super smooth. Okay. Oh. Got to cut this again. Okay. And for this, I'm going to ask you if you have a piece of plastic wrap. Just a plain piece of saran wrap, plastic wrap. So you've got kind of this mash here like that. Give it a taste. Tell me what you think. It doesn't have to be completely smooth. All right, let's see. All right, that is yummy. And now we're going to be very Japanese and make this into a beautiful pouch. You could do it in half, or you can just do it half one here. And I have a piece of plastic wrap. Ah. And ooh, it's a little hot. Right in the middle. You can also just put this in a little cup. You do not have to go to these lengths, but here we are. This is how I make onigiri. So you pick up your two pieces of wrap like this. And the other side, so you're bringing up your four corners. Okay, and you basically have a pouch, a sling, okay? And it's a little hotter than I would like, but I know it's time to move on, so I would like to keep this moving. It will actually keep its shape a little bit more if it was less warm. But for now, I'm gonna just finish it up like this. Let's see. Right. Okay. So it's not a lot of contrast. And I'm gonna take a piece of an apple that I had and just cut a very tiny sliver for decoration. Okay. And I'm just gonna open this up. As I said, it's very warm right now, but it will hold together more if it's a little cooler. out. And you should have a little bit more contrast there. Just put an apple slice on the top. Two of them on. Oops. Actually, three of them don't usually do things in twos. We do things in odd numbers in Japan, so. Sure. We got that right. I've got one more little slice. And that also helps to tell people what's in there. Okay, so we have one more dish to get out. And now let's get out our greens. And here are the greens. All right, my asparagus. And I'll put them on a plate. This way too big, right? It's just here. Another thing that's important in serving Japanese meals is you really don't want to fill things up too high, because seeing the decoration around the plate is also a very important part of the eating experience. So keep that in mind as well. Let me just get my favorite cooking tools called saibashis, Japanese cooking chopsticks. And again, you know, it may look sparse to us, but putting things in the center, kind of, this is a little bit big, but okay. So here, I'm not gonna dump all of the sauce on here because I want it to look good too. So I want to just drizzle it on top like that. Yeah. Thank you for cooking along with us. It's always a pleasure.